Thank you, Victoria, for that. And now I'll call upon our last speaker at the rapid fire presentations. It's Dipti Thapa. Dipti is an economist with the World Bank Group. Dipti, please.
Good morning. I'm Dipti, and I'm part of the World Bank Task Force on Food Loss and Waste, and it's a pleasure to be here this morning. The theme, Making It Personal, made me think about our own journey as an institution and as a team in tackling the food loss and waste challenge. So I'll talk about that and share it with you. Not too long ago, a small team of us was asked to take on the food loss and waste topic. And it had us thinking, why exactly was an institution like the World Bank interested in tackling food loss and waste? Now, the sheer magnitude of the problem, we definitely appreciated that, and you've heard the numbers before. It's a $1 trillion problem annually, globally. Up to 1.3 billion tons of food is either lost or wasted along the value chain. But what really convinced us to take on this topic is the inextricable link between climate change and food loss and waste. We've heard that about 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions can be attributed to food loss and waste. We also know that food loss and waste can be both a mitigation as well as an adaptation strategy. In fact, a lot of our client countries have appreciated this and have included concrete food loss and waste measures in their NDCs. So it seems that countries will not be able to meet their Paris climate commitments without tackling the issue of food loss and waste. So for us within the World Bank, this was a clear development challenge. And it was a symptom of a broken food system, if you will. So what exactly was the institution doing, and what had it been doing all these years to tackle this issue? We had our team take a closer look at our portfolio, to go back to our projects on the ground across the globe to see exactly what was being done to address this issue. And it turns out we were actually doing quite a bit already. It spanned from farm to fork to landfill, in fact. For example, in Angola, we were working with rural smallholder farmers to address food loss and waste in perishables, fruits and vegetables, which actually have the highest rates of food loss and waste, as you've heard. We were working to add value, to decrease post-harvest losses, as well as to increase market linkages. On the other end of the spectrum, on waste, we were working with China in its rapidly urbanizing cities to tackle solid waste management. So collecting and sorting, transportation, dealing with kitchen waste, the use of biogas, for example. So we were doing quite a bit, and in terms of finances, we realized that we were spending up to $3 billion over the past 5 years as an institution on food loss and waste. So this may seem like a large number, but what we felt as a team was that we weren't quite tackling the issue in a systematic manner. Our interventions were ad hoc. They were opportunistic at best, based on the assumption that any reductions of food loss and waste along the value chain would have positive externalities. There were clear gaps in our interventions, and we didn't understand the problem. We found, for example, that the thinking on the economics of food loss and waste was largely non-existent. For example, what were the drivers of food loss and waste? We also felt that unlike any other development challenge out there was no clear process on how to facilitate action. For example, where were the largest losses happening? Which countries, which regions, which commodities? We didn't have an idea. What exactly were the policies that we needed to have the highest impact? We didn't know that either. And relatedly, what types of investments and at what scale was needed? So knowing what we know, or rather knowing what we don't know, we went back to the drawing board. We firstly tapped some brilliant minds in academia, for example, Cornell University, as well as our partner organizations, including some of you who are in the room, to help us develop a conceptual and economic framework on food loss and waste. This, we hoped, would provide the underpinning for any work moving forward. And basically, this framework, we hoped, would give us a better sense of the economic drivers of food loss and waste, as well as the impacts of policies on behaviors, on incentive structures. And we hoped that using this, we would be able to define policy levers for action along the value chain. guided by this framework, we also are in the process of developing food smart country diagnostics. So these country diagnostics in select countries will be a deep dive looking at to identify hotspots, to quantify the magnitude of hotspots and help define the kinds of policy interventions that are needed. And finally, to tie back with the in-country, on-the-ground interventions that really is at the heart of what the World Bank does, we hope to influence the pipeline of projects moving forward on food loss and waste. And hope that next year I will be able to stand at a platform like this and be able to share a concrete plan of action that takes on a food systems approach, if you will, that links and analyzes the trade-offs between food loss and waste and nutrition and climate change and food safety that will help our client countries get that much closer to achieving SDG 12.3. Thank you.